office. Joining us now is Ravi Agrawal, editor-in-chief at Foreign Policy and host of FP Live. Ravi, it's great to have you on the show. So what do you make of where things stand tonight? I mean, is this a real ceasefire? Do we expect there to be a temporary pause in the fighting until the hostages are potentially released in the next 72 hours or so, only for then to see this Israeli government continue with operations?
It's not a real ceasefire. I mean, at this point, I think Israel is saying it's on defensive positions. Were something to break out, were there to be a reason for them to actually need to attack, they will do so. So, you know, in that sense, that death toll you just cited, that could easily go up. I think the phrase cautious optimism is the one that I'm clinging to here. I mean, we all want some sort of a deal. We all want this to end. We want the hostages to come home. I think the challenge here is that, you know, there were three ways this could have gone. Hamas could have said no, it could have said yes, or it could have said yes, but. It has said yes, but. We did not know if Trump would agree to the yes, but. He has.
The Israelis, though,
did not know that that was going to happen. I don't think they're too pleased that Trump has agreed and put pressure on them to go ahead with the movements as they are, next steps in Cairo now. But this could still go any which way. So I would be very cautious about celebrating too soon.
Just to add really quickly, if I can, but the Israelis seem to be very, deft at outmaneuvering American presidents. They've done it in the past. There's a long list of it. Is there any reason to believe that this time they wouldn't do the same with the but part of your statement, which is the hostages have been released, but our condition was that Hamas has to be disarmed or dislodged or removed from power. And that's where the sticking point seems to be, because Hamas's position has been, it is up to the Palestinian people. We're willing to relinquish our arms to the Palestinian Authority. But Israel has said there's no role for the Palestinian Authority. So they've basically closed off any possible outcome that does not meet what they want to happen. And that can be used as a pretext to resume the genocide.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I mean, there are genuine questions about whether Netanyahu wants any of this to move forward. There's every chance that Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in his cabinet, the most right-wing members of his cabinet, could easily defect in the next few days. All of those things are still on the table. I think the wild card here is still Trump. You're right that at a bipartisan level for the last 30 years, American presidents have not been forceful enough. They've not been able to use their leverage on Israel. The thing about Trump, whatever you say about him, he is desperate for peace. He is desperate to...
Or the Nobel Peace Prize, more specifically.
Exactly. But he's desperate for, you know, the tick box of peace. To add to that list of 7 or 8, whatever it is, conflicts that he claims to have resolved.
Can I ask what you make of the flotilla? I believe 42 boats intercepted by Israel, but this is, actually, I don't know what number we're on. Eamon, I don't know how many of these have gone out and attempted to break through the blockade and bring aid to people there. But what role does that kind of advocacy and visibility do in terms of putting pressure on Israel to change conditions there, putting pressure on the United States? I mean, we're starting to hear some reports of how the people intercepted are being treated. It sounds horrifying. But what role do you think all of this plays in the global picture?
And the European countries are also reeling from that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll kind of separate it from this potential ceasefire deal in that this is the here and now. The flotilla stuff, the pressure from European publics and now even the American public, that has been going on for 2 years now. And there's a groundswell of horror. I think younger people especially are just recoiling at the imagery that they're seeing out of Gaza. And look, domestic politics matters. So in as much as figures like Greta Thunberg are able to raise awareness, they're able to get more young people to say this is wrong and put pressure on their governments to then put more pressure on Israel. I mean, a few weeks ago, Netanyahu said that we would be okay for Israel to take on a super Sparta mode. What he meant by that was a form of autarky in which Israel is completely cut off. It's a pariah state. That is an acceptance that Israel has lost enormous amounts of soft power in the last 2 years, and the United States with it. That comes from a public sort of sense of anger and rage at what is going on. That's very, very important.
Ravi, Jared Kushner has reemerged on the scene as a key negotiator of this deal. He also is in the middle of a huge $55 billion deal with the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund and doing his own private business ventures. What do you make of his insertion and presence at the forefront at this very important moment when he does have such vast financial ties, not just Saudi Arabia, but also, in the UAE too?
Look, it's problematic. If you would have asked me this question a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have said it's deeply problematic. A lot of foreign leaders now, they treat the Trump administration like a family business. And if you're in India or Saudi or the UAE, this is not confusing to you. You know how to deal with a big family business. So that's not a problem. I think this week, the key thing is if Kushner is able to move the needle, and he does have great connections in the Middle East, then that is something that I can get behind.
But we also know that Kushner has made comments about what he believes the future of Gaza should look like.
Sure.
That, to put it diplomatically, Palestinians have absolutely no interest in.
Sure.
So is there cause to be concerned for that reason?
Yeah. There is so many causes to be concerned here about each of the players involved, their experience levels, the outcomes they're okay with, the fact that there's so much crony capitalism involved, that we're veering towards a kleptocracy, all of that stuff. But again, for now, I'm laser focused on the possibility of some movement here. If the hostages do come home, the key thing to watch there is that means Netanyahu needs to end the war.
What do you make of Tony Blair coming back on the scene here? This is a guy who, by some accounts, should be in The Hague for what he did with the Iraq War, along with other American politicians. They all completely walked free. He issued an apology, not enough to kind of, cover the damage of what has happened to Iraqis, British, and American soldiers. But here he is reemerging on the scene, the connections that he has to Israel. He was also, by the way, not just as a prime minister, but at one point he was the quartet representative, who people may not know, but he was actually already in a role in which he was supposed to try to broker peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians when he was part of the UN quartet. That failed miserably. Why does this guy keep coming back?
Legacy. He really cares about fixing his Middle East legacy. Blair is deeply aware of his very complicated past, of how he's viewed in the Middle East.
Very diplomatic of you, complicated.
No, it is. You said it, right? Iraq was a disaster for him, for the Labour Party, for the British public. The British public hated British involvement in Iraq way more than the American public did, rightfully so. I think this is a legacy play for him. He has been involved, knows all the players.
Go enjoy a drink somewhere. Leave the Middle East alone.
The icing on the cake here is he was mooted as this person who'd be like this viceroy figure. And then Trump says, you know what? I kind of like that role for myself.
Yeah, right. So he's like, I'm going to be the chair of the board. You can be the... I just don't understand who came up... Well, we know who came up with it, but the idea of having a British viceroy return to Palestine to govern the mandate of...
Such a good job.
I grew up in India. I see one or two things wrong with it.
Just the optics of it. I don't understand the Tony Blairs and some of these other politicians in this country who just won't step away and leave it alone.
You're just offering to buy him a drink. You're like, I'll buy you a drink.
I will buy you anything. Just leave the Middle East alone.
You don't know when to exit stage left. That's
Ravi Agrawal,
Thanks for coming
thank you
on.
so much for being with us. Up next,